My name is Lela. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, specifically Oakland, California. My childhood was very up and down. In the beginning, I feel like I was a very happy child. We went to church. My parents were together, so they looked happy. And then I got older and I started to see just a lot of bad communication. And so that reflected in arguments and not me really wanting them to be together. And so then they got a divorce, and then my mom got sick, and then I was a teenager. My mom getting sick, it made me just question God. Because she literally got sick while we were in church. She was praying on her knees, and at the time I was saved, but I was 12 or 13, so I was still a kid, and I didn't really understand that someone could get hurt or sick while worshiping God. So it made me question just His leading and His will for our lives. She got up from the ground. Her face was twisted. I thought she was possessed with a demon because at the time I didn't know about strokes. Now I know way too much. My aunt was there. She's a nurse. She asked her to do 3 things: say something, lift both her hands. I forgot the last thing. So she couldn't lift her left hand. Her language was like scrabbled. And she was barely holding on to the side of the table on the altar. So someone called 911. I was crying. Someone ushered me to the back. The ambulance came. My mom kept saying, "Just get Lela out." I was still crying. My godmom got me to the car. We went to the hospital. We stayed. We learned what happened. My grandparents came. I think my uncle came. And then that night I just stayed with my godparents. Well, for a couple of years, I feel like I was angry, and so I kind of rebelled. And I guess for me, our church rules in my church are very strict, so we can't really wear like loud makeup or loud nail polish and stuff. But I rebelled by wearing, I remember it was like a loud lipstick, and it was kind of like pink or like dark red pink, like a fuchsia kind of. And my first lady, she saw me on Facebook, and she was like she calls me Susie. She was like, "Susie, what are you doing?" So that was one way I rebelled. I think I also rebelled in school. I stopped doing my homework. I rebelled. I don't think I really rebelled in my house. I was more quiet and had night terrors, but it was definitely a point of rebellion with me and God a few years after she got sick. I think I got more quiet after. I remember going to some friend's house that we know in Sacramento, and I was in my teens, and so she had already gotten sick, and I really just stayed in our room that they assigned us, and my mom was out and about with the family and hanging out for the weekend. There was a family that we used to stay with in Sacramento, one of my mom's friends. She would be out and about, out of our room that was assigned to us, whereas I was in my teens, so she had already gotten sick, so I was inside the room, I was on my phone, texting my friends. I didn't really want to socialize, and when they dropped us off that weekend back at our house, I call him my uncle, one of my uncles, he was like, "Oh, you used to be more outspoken when you were younger, and now you're, a little more standoffish, but you're still kind." So I think that shows that after she got sick, I kind of was in quiet mode. I think I was pushed to be more quiet because of her health condition, because I was kind of like her sidekick. And so when you're with someone for so long and then you lose them for a while, maybe I lost a leg to stand on. But I think it also showed me that I have my own life to live. So I will just say I was very dependent and very, clingy to my mom. And so when she got sick, it's there was a separation. And so that made me more quiet in my teens. And after that, after she got sick, I did remember feeling alone, that everyone in my house was dealing with it differently. And so there was no outlet. There wasn't any therapy yet for me. There was church, but it wasn't really an outlet because it, was where it happened, and also where just a lot of people knew me, so I didn't feel comfortable just bearing my soul every Sunday. So I think the depression came later in life for me. I was like a church baby in my specific church that I will not name. But so I grew up with all these people, all these adults. And so I guess whereas the person on the street coming into this ministry or into this community would feel more open, I did not. I saw how people were treated behind the scenes. I saw how sometimes I was treated, and even as a child. And so that just kind of shut me down. So Christians not being the same throughout the day, where I see them, right? Like in church and out of service, shifted my perception of what God was calling us for. So I saw that what they were doing was wrong, in my opinion. And so it made me want to be better. It made me want to be the same person I was in church service as well as out of church service. To people that I knew in the church, out of the church, whoever I met, like I wanted to be the same because I was not seeing that or treated that way. Characteristics of the Christian that I want to be would be someone who's loving, someone who's kind, someone who's patient, someone who's understanding, and someone who is not so judgmental. Prayer really helped me during that time of getting over my mom's sickness and then getting over like church hurt or maybe not feeling safe in my church home. Just for God to just take feelings away from me that meant me no good. I also started praying that God allowed me to just stick out the situation with my mom to help her, and then also to graduate high school. My mom hadn't gotten sick yet, so I had to be younger than 11. One night I just happened to find, I'm just going to say disturbing images, adult images on the screen. The first night, I believe, I just like immediately turned it off. But when spirit jumps, they jump. So I think I waited like maybe a couple of weeks. I would pay to watch it at night when my parents were sleeping. And so then one time my mom got the bill, and this just shows you like how innocent I really was because I wasn't thinking about the repercussions of what I was doing. My mom got the bill right before we went to church one night, and then she thought it was my dad, so she was yelling at him. I remember telling her that it was me, and she told people in church, and then they were just like pacifying me, like, oh, Lela is just not interested, but what is that? Like curious, like just, it was just happenstance or whatever. And so recently she asked me, did I remember that? And I was like, yeah, because me and her have never really discussed what I let enter into my eye gate. So I told her that it was me, not my dad, and she couldn't believe it. But she didn't continue talking. She just said, wow, okay, and then looked confused. My godmom was one person that did have a conversation to me a little bit about sex after that happened. She had a talk with me and was just saying that my feelings were valid. But even though we had that talk, I still had, like you said, different attacks after that. So I don't really know if the talk helped, but I do know like when you're in a fight or in a spiritual warfare, you have to fight kind of for yourself. So was I equipped with the tools from my church? No, not really. Was I feeling like I was in a judgmental community? Yes, because I watched other girls go through different things with lust of the flesh and have to get up and apologize to the church. Only if they got pregnant though, not if they were experiencing other things like I was. Watching the pornographic images on the screen, I feel like it does result from maybe feeling lonely, but also wrestling with lust of the flesh or just attacks from Satan. I will just say that lust of the flesh, for me, I don't know if it had a hold or a grasp on my life because my mom was sick and it made me feel like a void in that way. But I do know that it did deter me from stressors or any other stressors of life. And so it would feel good in the moment and I would kind of be, relieved or like feel better, but then conviction would come in and I would feel God's voice, saying, "What are you doing, my child?" So then I would, get sad or like put on some gospel music to just reconnect with God to try to do better for the next day. I did not realize that I could overcome this of my own strength or my own will for multiple years. This has taught me that when I have my own kids, I want to make sure that I'm a little more focused on what they're watching, what adult ratings are allowed on the computer, the tablet, the phone, the TV, and making sure that when I go to sleep, they're already in their beds as well, with no devices near them. I'm not saying that I blame my parents for this in any way, but just making sure that I'm cautious to protect my children where Satan can't get them where he got me. My mother's illness progressed better in high school than now because my grandma was more equipped to take her to her appointments, to her therapy, making sure that she was eating sound meals, which now falls heavily on me. Not that taking her anywhere, but making sure she's eating healthy. So I believe in high school, her illness was progressing better. She was walking more, getting more exercise, and going to therapy more. Being my mom's only child and having to bear her through her illness, even the more so now as everyone in our house is getting older, and so since I'm one of the younger ones, I have to carry the torch or take the lead to help her, has been a lot at times because it is hard to help anyone that's disabled while also having a life for yourself. And so I've had to learn how to balance her, me, my spirituality, my relationship with God, what I want out of life, while also making sure my mom is okay, my mom is fed, my mom is happy, my mom is uplifted. And so it's been trying, it's been hard, but God has given me the grace to get through it. I remember there was a time that my mom, I think she first came home from the hospital. She didn't really have a lot of strength in her legs yet, and so she was probably still in the wheelchair. I wasn't in her room at that time, so I was all the way far into my room. I heard a thump. She had fallen while trying to use the commode, and so I remember there was pee on the floor. She was kind of crying. She was on the ground. My grandparents were upstairs, so there was no one really to help. So I had to get myself together, not care about the smell, not care that she's not in her best moments, and just try to help her up, get her onto the toilet, clean her up, clean the floor, and soothe her fears and her worries in that moment. The roles between me and my mom have definitely switched. I always tell her I'm the parent now because I feel emotionally that's where I am. Emotionally, I have to take care of me and her. And it's only progressed as I've gotten older. And so, again, because my grandma can't bear the weight or the grunt of most of the work or even the emotional work because she has her own illness of her own, I have to bear my mom's emotional state. And so I have to uplift her. I have to tell her that the doctors only know so much and that God is in control of everything and her healing is in his hands. On the emotional ride with my mom, my lowest point, I think it's always when I've had to assist her either to the bathroom or just to any space, and there's multiple people around us that don't know us. Like at church, it's easy for me to assist her and help her because everyone knows like I'm basically her helpmate. Like I'm the person assisting her. But like when we're in like outside settings, or I don't know, even when she had to go to therapy and like my grandma couldn't make it, so I had to assist her and stuff, that was emotionally probably taxing on me and my emotions during those times, because it was just like, one, I don't really like hospitals, and so to be put in a place where I have to constantly go, thankfully now I don't, but I used to have to go to help her because she wasn't strong enough to go alone. It was a lot for me, and I had to just think of how good I would feel when it was all over so that I could get through it. It's been low, and I've been sad while trying to help her because, especially in my teen years, I was waiting for results that never happened. Like I thought that if we did the therapies, if we helped her with her stretches, helped her with her motor ability, helped her with all of the different she has like different arm and leg, I don't know how to say it, equipment to like help her get better. I thought that if me and my grandma participated and helped her execute those things every week, that God would come in and heal her and deliver her way faster than what was going on. And so she still is not, all the way better. And so I guess that's been low, and it's made me sad because, like I said, I've expected results that have never come. And it's also sad to watch my mom get sad and cry when doctors say she's not going to get better, or when they say she's going to be like this forever. Because then I have to deal with the aftermath of her emotions coming out, and that can either be good or it can be bad. I feel like I've accepted whatever God wants to do with me and my mom, but I don't know if my mom will ever be okay if she isn't delivered. I think in the last 5 years, I've accepted and stopped worrying just about my parents in general, because both of them are sick, and so both of them have been going through trying times for a while, and so it was kind of exhausting for me to just be up in arms and elms about things that I can't control. Like I can't control their health, I can't control their mental states, I can't control what God is doing in their lives, but I can't accept that His will be done and everything is going to happen in the right time. Me and my mom try to talk to my dad every now and then, but because his dementia is gearing its head, the more we try to call, there's not really any conversation. And so once he just sees us, says hi for a little bit, we get off the phone. So we haven't really spoken with him in the last couple of weeks. There's also different things going on with communication between our family and this facility there. But I think my relationship with my dad is fine. And yes, I used to tell my mom, well, I never told her back then, but when I got older, I told her that I liked him better and that me and my dad would both talk about her. And she did not like that. But back then, I was closer to my dad, and I wasn't as close to my mom because she was mostly the breadwinner. And my dad would be the one that hung out with me and emotionally was the stable parent for me and the fun parent. I feel like that I lost the relationship with my dad slowly over time. In my teens, he lived with my uncle at the time in Vallejo, and so he would come to church, and so that's when I would see him. And so it was okay. Like, I wasn't too upset about it because I still had my grandparents and my mom at home. But as his health and his brother's health deteriorated, did I say that right? Because it sounded like I did. Sorry. As their health declined and they had to both go to different facilities, I feel like that's when our relation kind of crumbled and also his mental capacity was changing. Along with the diabetes, he was getting early stages of dementia. Yeah, I wasn't really sad in my teen years, but I think in my 20s I got a little sad. Especially the other month I saw a post on Twitter where this dad it was a black dad, and he had a black daughter, and he was just like giving her so much love and affirmations. And it reminded me of how my dad would be with me. And I think about the future, and I think about, maybe when I get married, like who's gonna walk me down the aisle, or who's gonna be holding my hand. I always assumed it would be my mom anyways, but I think about if my dad will even be there. So there are sad moments that occur regarding my dad. But after my mom got sick, our relationship got way closer. And so even though I'm every day losing my dad a little bit more to the dementia, again, I'm just accepting God's fate and his will. Not saying that I want, it to progress and get worse, but I'm not going to stress about it, and I'm not going to be sad every day because he's sick or because my mom's sick. It took me to be in my 20s to get to the point where I accepted both of my parents' disabilities and their illnesses. I believe in my teens, I was more emotional or emotionally led with my thoughts and my actions. But now I feel like I'm getting to a place where God is working on me to just be still and just understand that his will is going to be done whether I like it or not. And so it's sad to see my parents where they are. It's sad that I'm in my early 20s and they're both really not doing that well. But I also know that they're both alive, and so there's a blessing in all things. I feel like because I don't have the normal relationship with my parents anymore because of their illnesses, I don't necessarily feel empty because I fill it up with other things that fill that void, such as reading the Bible, watching Netflix, praying, listening to music, talking to my friends, or just being able to still talk to my mom. Like, she's ill, but her mental capacity is still there. And so again, that's a blessing that I have one parent that I can still confide in and have a conversation with to still help me along life's journey. I would tell my younger self that my relationship with God and my walk with God is going to change a lot, but to just keep holding on to his hand, that I'm going to be disappointed on my walk with Christ. I'm going to not always understand God's will on my walk with Christ. I'm going to be upset sometimes at God on my walk with Christ regarding my family, myself, my pitfalls with sin, my resolutions with trying to figure out who I am in Christ. I would also remind my younger self that I am stronger because Christ is in me. And so whatever I am going to be faced with, I shouldn't be scared, I shouldn't feel alone, and I should feel proud that the creator of the world is inside of me. If I were to meet anyone that was in similar situations as me or dealing with anything that I've dealt with along my Christ walk, I would just tell them to hold on and that I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for still being here. I'm proud of them for letting God lead them where they need to go. I'm proud of them for letting God take the reins of their life. And I'm also proud of them for just trusting in God and believing that he's going to change things in his time. And that's the perfect time. And I hope they're enjoying what they see today.